So, it is Saturday morning here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I have been quiet in the group, so I am here because it is BIPOC, formerly known as Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to provide this free mini-me moment, and I was gonna do it on Zoom, but I actually didn't necessarily have anyone particular signed up in Zoom, so I decided to go live in the group. Good morning. How you doing? Evangelist Bankston. The purpose of the live today is to talk about BIPOC mental health. And so I'm actually having an open forum where I will answer questions. So hopefully, as I am a licensed clinical social worker, if you have access to the chat, and if there is a question, a concern, just wonder, more information that we are needing or would like, and we can talk about anything regarding our mental health. Yes. Questions here. So, let's see. And okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna actually share some information. I want to make this smaller so I can see other part of my screen. But in the meantime, I'm going to share some information. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I can look on my phone. Okay, I think I can get it from my phone. In terms of statistics, I think that's good for us to be able to just have a basis. So I'm going to start generally, and then we'll talk about the African American community. And then I also have some for the Hispanic community as well. Overall, here's some key statistics. So approximately 1 in 5. So, that means there's somebody that we know experience a mental health issue each year. Now, let me say, this says mental illness, and so that doesn't mean you crazy. It just means that there's some anxiety, maybe some depression, or it could even be something a little bit more advanced, where maybe definitely medication is needed, or whatever the case may be. And then the next statistic is 1 in 20 adults experience a serious mental illness. So most of us, 1 in 5, may have some type of angst or anxiety. And what anxiety is, it is a worry about or a concern for a negative or unfavorable outcome that hasn't happened yet, or that things won't go well, okay? Or based on things not going well before, worrying that they won't go well in the future. Serious mental illness is mental illness that impacts your functioning in a way that it disturbs your ability to live your life. So ability to be in relationship in a healthy way, ability to work and provide for yourself, It can disturb your ability to even be in touch with reality. Maybe there is some paranoia or concern that just doesn't allow you to see life in the world and reality in the way that it is. So that the way you function within that is based on what may be happening in your mind. And let me say, mental health is health. Our God has made our bodies to have all kinds of systems. Our nervous system is one of those systems. Our brain is another one of those systems. And so it is, there's chemicals and all kinds of processes that go on that can be impacted by maybe, troubling experiences that we've had, or maybe some substances or food that we're taking in, maybe even information, or just for some reason that's unexplained, there's some type of imbalance that makes our brains, our emotions, and our nervous system work in a way that it's not supposed to. And then here's another stat is that more than 50% with a mental health concern, unfortunately, they're not getting treatment. Okay. And some people are a little wary, of treatment. So I want to say some people are experiencing things that part of what they're experiencing makes it more difficult for them to want to seek services, just because they feel like they aren't able to trust the provider. And I will say a lot of people, they come to me particularly because they happen to be African American, and some of the things that they are dealing with is highly connected to the experience of being, a Black person or a person of color here in these Americas. And so they want to work with someone that they feel like would have the perspective on what, life and experience has been. And sometimes that's hard to come by, sometimes that's hard to come by. And let's see, I wonder if I need to like this because, yep. Okay. So hopefully, no one's sharing a comment. And if you're listening back and you want to ask a question, I definitely will be following this thread, so you can certainly ask once I post it. So mental health conditions can affect people of all ages, races, ethnicities, genders, and backgrounds. And so I want to just sort of preface that is that, there's not a specific grouping of people that this applies to. Just like we can experience high blood pressure and diabetes or cardiovascular disease, or something can be wrong with your eye, or you can have a broken leg or whatever. Our mental, emotional aspect of ourselves is something that we need to give attention to, just like all the other parts of us, okay? And so common things that people could be dealing with are anxiety, depression, trauma, PTSD, which means you experience something that caused you to function in a different way. That, for instance, a couple of years ago, there was a really big storm here where trees fell, and it was, we didn't have electricity. It was hard to find food. And so that was a very traumatic experience. Now we know that was a one-time scenario, But what happens when we're traumatized is now, if every time there's a storm, or a person starts to think, oh my gosh, or feel panicked, or wants to store up, 2 years of food because the last time there was 6 days where there wasn't. So stress is another one, which is something that I deal a lot with, because I know, as a person of color, we have a threshold that's called allostatic load, where we relate to stress, where there is maybe a greater amount that we normalize to be okay, when the truth is that it's responsible for the wear and tear on our minds, on our bodies, on our spirits. And then grief and loss. This is what I say to people all the time. As sure as, I'm here and you're here, one thing that we all will have to experience is people being born and people passing away. And so that is the cycle of life that we all will have to go through at some point. But also, grief and loss can be loss of a job. It could be loss of, like, if someone's house is in a fire. It could be loss, like a person who was a star athlete and had an injury, and they lost the use of, their performance, the way that they are used to functioning in terms of their body and skill. And then also along with that, what they thought life was going to be like in their future. So grief and loss can include all of that. Substance use concerns. So let me break that out. So substance use concerns can be in layers. So from someone being chemically dependent, meaning they can't function, they don't feel normal unless they're using the substance. That's one. But also, it could even be someone abusing, meaning they're using a substance more than the recommended, dose, like prescription medications, or people that, believe in, having some wine or whatever. It's abusing it. So using it more. So instead of taking prescriptions as prescribed for you, or taking it as prescribed, taking more of it, or whatever the case may be, especially when it comes to narcotics and opioid level stimulants and things like that. But also, it could just be using, like chronic using. So someone that is, so that's the sort of the level. It's like, okay, yes, I have a drink, or yes, I take these pills, and there's not a dependency on it. You could stop, but you're using it recreationally, as they say. And then relationship challenges. I work with couples as well as individuals and families, and relationship struggles can be about long-standing family dysfunction, where people are having poor boundaries, or having to compensate for one another. Or it could also be conflicts that aren't resolved, or long-standing secrets and, ways that people have been maybe harmed or abused or mistreated. So, yeah, relationship issues can span a lot of different things. All right, so I just wanted to kind of shape up the conversation in a general sense. And I'll repeat this a couple of times, and that is, there is a national crisis hotline that you can call 24 hours of the day. And you can 365 days of the year. It doesn't matter if it's a holiday or not a holiday. 988 can always be reached for someone that might be in need if you feel like there is no one else that you can talk to, and that sort of thing. This information is coming from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI for short. So let's look at specifically the African American community. I know by and large, we like to keep our business to ourselves, and talking to somebody can feel very strange. As a matter of fact, I know some people are like, what is just sitting and talking to somebody gonna do, right? So totally understand why it would seem strange or difficult. And so I like to bring in the spiritual aspect, because I know, I wouldn't say 100%, but by and large, that is something, one, that needs to be incorporated in our services. And that's the first thing that I want to just stress, is that services like counseling or therapy is very much so about meeting us where we are. So there is Christian therapy counseling. You can include prayer and references to, the word and all of those things. And I like to share two scriptural references that really speak to me when it comes to the therapy piece. And that's one, in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. So sometimes it is important to have counsel, wise counsel, counsel that has education, and counsel that is held to ethical guidelines, counsel that's not going to share your business in the street, counsel that is being overseen by a licensing organization. There's a lot of talk, I think, nowadays about like people's credentials and stuff like that. So I consider that to be good, wise counsel. And for a person who is seeking treatment, one of the things that I like to stress as well is that being able to talk to someone who is neutral. This person is not in your family, they're not in your household, they're not in your church, they're not in your community, they're not at your job, that you can feel safe to share and to be open, and to have somebody reflect back and help you to maybe see some corners or some blind spots that maybe you were not, able to see yourself, is gonna be good. Okay. The second scripture that I really like to highlight is, where two or three are gathered in my name, asking anything, I will be in the midst. So I see the therapeutic space as coming together to really focus in on what may be going on, and that is a space where God says, I'm in the midst, as long as we surrender that space to Him. So I just want to stress that this is not something that has to be separate or even in contrary to our belief in faith. It actually is a part of what we have been instructed to do. So just wanted to share that, because I know in our community that's really important. Some of the common concerns specifically are similar: anxiety, depression, trauma, PTSD, grief, and loss. But I want to highlight that chronic stress is something that, not just stress, but chronic stress. There's different types of stress, and in Me Moment, the book that I wrote, I talk about the different types. And so we need to be aware that in our community, as African American folks, that stress is definitely something that we definitely need to think about. So I was at a health fair last week and took a poll by having people drop a little puffball in these different categories, and definitely calm came in second. So people said they needed energy and motivation first and foremost, but calm was a very close second for what people are needing. So maybe what we'll do here is pick back up with providing some calm practices. So let me give you some key statistics about our community. And let me say these are national statistics. So I'm in Oklahoma, but I wanted to give sort of a broad stroke. And this is according to research done through NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So 1 in 5 Black adults experienced mental illness in the past year. So very similar to the overall general population. 12.2% of Black adults experience serious psychological distress, and only 1 in 3 receive treatment. Okay, so there is a huge need, and what I know is that we need not to just talk about it or hear about it, but to experience it. And so I'm looking forward to creating ways for us to do that. And then for some reason, we need to know that our youth are reporting attempts at harming themselves, trying to end their lives at a higher rate than the national average. And so that's something that we need to start really thinking about and being aware of. So one of the things that I decided to do last year is to take private insurance, because I learned that many of people in the African American community would like services, but cannot find providers that they feel comfortable with, that look like them, that actually take insurance. And so that is a decision that I made, and I'm glad I did, because that has increased my reach and my opportunity to connect with those in my community that were really interested in working with someone that looks like them. So that's a barrier, the financial part. Also, mistrust of healthcare systems, period. I do know it is actually a proven, researched issue where we don't always feel heard in medical settings. And, when we're in pain, it may be dismissed or minimized. And so that's something that I think gets in the way of people wanting to seek help. And then also just fear of judgment. We, by and large, are wanting to, have it all together, keep it, private and all of those things. And, just the feeling of needing help, not just for African American, but any person. Sometimes it can be hard to feel that you need help. So, that definitely is a big thing. So what I would like to do is highlight 2 resources. and to support, like if you are looking for or someone is looking for services, there is therapyforblackgirls.com, and I am listed. And I have clients find me through that resource. And so I pay to list myself in that directory. And it is organized by state. And so wherever you live, you can go to that particular site, read up on the person, go see their website, or whatever the case may be, to find somebody to work with, especially if you're interested in somebody that looks like you. Then there is, so that's therapyforblackgirls.com. That's the website. You could also follow that Instagram page if you're a social media kind of person, because they post really interesting information that's helpful. I post interesting information that's helpful. And they also have a podcast as well, and all of that. Then there is therapyforblackmen.org. Okay, so that is another directory where you can go if you're looking for somebody who specially works with and deals with Black men issues. This would be the directory to use. And they are also on social media platforms as well. So wanted to make sure to share those resources. If you are in, you don't have to be in the DMV area, but in the DMV area, there is also an organization called Black Mental Wellness. And they have a social media where you can get, they share about events and workshops and healing types of programming. They host several things throughout the year, and then they have a conference once a year that I have participated in twice now since I'm from the DMV area. So that's another resource that would be really good for you. So particularly because this is about BIPOC Mental Health Awareness Month, I do want to go over things particularly for the Hispanic community. Not that there's not any other communities. I know there's Native American community, there is Asian community. I happened to last week the health fair that I was at was going to include African American as well as the Hispanic population as well as the general population. And so I have this information because we were doing outreach with that population. And so I want to share that because we are in BIPOC Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think it'll be good because, Hispanic is the second largest, population here in America. And I don't know if you all knew, but Spanish is our second language. So there you go. All right. So nearly 1 in 5. So that 1 in 5 is the same. They experience on par with African American. They experience mental health conditions each year. And this is, I think, a key thing to know, especially if there's somebody that you know, friends that you have, people that you run across, that they are less likely to receive mental health treatment than the general population. Okay. So they're just probably not going. Now, here's what probably is a part of that. Even if they were thinking about going, if they're not documented, they're going to feel totally like that there's a system that they cannot trust, and that it may create, further issues. And I don't really have an opinion about people being documented or undocumented. I'm just simply sharing that they are way less likely to get the help they need if something comes up. And think about think about it like this. There is all of this news and actual experience with ICE and some of those things. And even if we feel like, there's something, needing to, be clear about our borders and all of that stuff. That stuff is scary. It's frightening. It's disheartening. So, people being harmed or mistreated or whatever the case may be. So more than half of the Hispanic or Latino individuals with the mental illness do not receive treatment. That is that's like one in two. So, or more than that, right? And then the youth are experiencing an increasing rate of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. So yeah, and unfortunately, again, that's happening, but they're not actually getting mental health services. So I want to share, reiterate that 988 is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and it's available in English and Spanish. So that's another barrier. Like, okay, if I'm only Spanish speaking, is there going to be someone there that can, help me, that can speak my language? And so we need to know that 988 is available in English and Spanish. Also, a resource for the Latina community is www.latinxtherapy.com. So that is a resource for the Latino Hispanic community to be able to access. Also, for anyone, along with the 988, there is 1-800-662-HELP, or 1-800-662-HELP stands for 4357, and that is the SAMHSA National Helpline. And SAMHSA stands for, let me tell you what SAMHSA stands for. You haven't heard of it because it's so Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association. Okay. Yep. So that's what SAMHSA stands for. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Let me be clear. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And the thing about SAMHSA is it's a governmental organization and has local, state level offices as well. But that is the number to the national line for SAMHSA. Okay, so I want to sort of land this discussion by talking through just a couple of, since I'm not seeing any questions, I'm going to actually go on Facebook myself, because I think it's hard for me to see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions. I'm so glad that you joined, Evangelist. and I know people will have a chance to listen back. So I want to go over a few things that are frequently asked questions around mental health. I can actually see the comments on through my phone on Facebook, so that's really helpful for me to be able to see it there, because I can't see it here. Just a couple of so, I'm not. Oh, and let me turn it down. Okay, so the first thing that people usually ask me is, well, does everybody need therapy? And so I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and we as a profession, not that I don't agree, but just want to frame it in the profession. In the clinical social work, the social work profession, we believe, one, in people's right to self-determine, meaning I cannot tell you what you need. You get to determine what you need for yourself. So that's one. The other thing is I do think that there can be a lot of avenues, by which a person can find a sense of healing and peace, and that therapy may not just be the only one. It's the one that I provide and that I offer, and I do think I can't say that everybody needs therapy, but I do think that everybody could benefit from talking to someone, from having counsel, from being able to have another person hear and, if nothing else, validate. But I also want to talk about how it's not just talking, okay? So it is not just sitting down with someone and talking. It is sitting down with someone and learning, gaining a better understanding on why you may be behaving or responding the way that you are. And also having access to be able to then from there make changes if need be, because it's not working, right? If you're in conflict with your boss all the time and you don't know why, having someone help you figure that out and make some shifts. Or if you have a chronic issue like being late or, always getting into debt or whatever, therapy can help you with so many different things, with so many different aspects of your life, because a person, we have spent time studying and understanding how our brain works, how our nervous system works, human behavior, all of those things. And so it is being able to talk to somebody that has some knowledge that can point you in a better direction. It could even be better understanding, what your triggers are, or that there's something that you've been doing for a long time that you didn't even realize was creating more difficulty for you. So yes, I do believe that people can benefit, everybody can benefit from having some counsel and that sort of thing. So that's one. The second thing then I get asked is, well, then how do you choose somebody, right? And so I offer people a free consultation where we get to, for 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, we meet each other. I get to explain a little bit about myself and what my approach is and how I help people. And they get to tell me a little bit about like what they may have going on, or even if they don't want to do that, they get to ask questions about me, about therapy or whatever the case may be. And so, because therapy is about relationship, about really seeing that I will feel heard, or I will feel safe. I will feel like, this person won't judge me. And let me say, talking to a stranger or somebody that you haven't met before, that's nerve-wracking in and of itself. But having an opportunity to meet somebody is really helpful to see, like, how does this work? And let me say this, it is my job. It's my job as the practitioner to work to create a space to help you feel comfortable. And it doesn't happen just automatically, like in the very first session, but over time, the person can start to feel comfortable and warm up. And so it's my job to help cultivate that atmosphere where people can feel like, they are in a safe space where they can share openly without judgment. With that being said, that's the next point, is that you only have to share what you want to share. If there's some deep, dark secret that you're not ready to talk about, or whatever the case may be, then it is, it goes at your pace as to what you feel comfortable. Welcome, sis. Hey, Melissa. So those are questions. You get to ask about a person's experience. You get to ask about a person's education. Typically, that's easy for you to see, like, on their website. But if you have questions, feel free to ask those questions so that you can find out what you need to find out to feel comfortable. Sometimes people ask me what methods I use. Sometimes people ask me, do I give homework, or whatever the case may be. And so all of those things are definitely a part of that initial conversation. And then, of course, what's the payment? Do you take insurance? All of those things is a part of that initial conversation. And then scheduling, how do you do your sessions? How long are they? That is, some of the main questions that I get in terms of services. And so I just wanted to share those. And I see that you joined. I'm open for questions. If you have any, mail. So otherwise, I do want to end with a brief relaxation activity that's going to be so simple, but impactful. So it's basically one of my favorites, and it's alternate nostril breathing. So I'll give it a second. If there's not any questions, then I want to end us with that, just so that we can have an experience of practicing our breath, because breath is what it's a gift. It is the scripture says God breathed, and I love to just talk about this, and man became a living soul. And I love how it said he breathed, meaning he breathed once. And his breath is so powerful and so amazing that we're all existing we're existing off the oxygen that the trees are providing. But that initial breath has sustained us all. So I love that. So the breath of life is the gift. And so if we can be with that, that can create more mental clarity, that can calm our bodies, that can allow us to think more clearly, that can allow us to even sleep better. I mean, breathing in and of itself is a big one. Okay, so I have a question. How do you talk to clients who have had negative experience with mental health services? I have not. So I think that I love that question. And I'm glad. Wow. Okay, come on, bring it. Bring it. All right. I happen to have experienced this. So I will say many, I wouldn't say many. I'll say there's some instances where I have had clients come to me who just didn't have a good experience with mental health services or whatever the case may be. So I think, I don't know if you want to give me more context, but I'm just going to kind of put it more broadly. And you're right. I didn't necessarily talk about how to talk to clients about it, but I did talk about some ways that there can be mistrust or distrust or whatever the case may be. So, when a client has had negative experiences with mental health services, I think, especially if I'm having the opportunity, which would be a blessing, to speak to them, I think I would handle it just like any other concern that they may bring, meaning I would allow them to really talk about like what about that experience was negative. We would we use the word process a lot in therapy, but we would reflect on anything that may have impacted them about it, and see if there's a place that there's healing that's needed or action that needs to be taken, because sometimes it may mean addressing something like advocating for something or whatever the case may be. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So let me finish this thought and then I'll go to that. I that's clear. How do I get the buy-in? So, and really treating it, like, hey, this is something that happened to you, and let's figure out, what the impact. I like to use an airplane crash, which is, a pretty graphic image as an example. Sometimes when an plane crashes, or not sometimes, most of the time, what we want to do is we want to find the black box, because the black box is the thing that recorded what happened. We really want to know, like, what happened. And I'm saying it is important to know what happened and how it all went down. And we also have wreckage. There's stuff all over the place, pieces. And so sometimes before we can get to what happened, we actually have to clean up the wreckage and be about what I call crisis management or triaging. So I would definitely be assessing, like, okay, how did this experience impact a person? Okay, so how to get their buy-in? I think we have to put on loudspeaker or shine a light on what exactly was the issue and address it directly. I think as a mental health provider, I have a responsibility to the profession to be, I'm going to use the word ethical, to operate in an ethical manner, meaning be able to hear and discover if there was some wrongdoing and really acknowledge that. And then also gain their buy-in by opening the lines of communication on feedback. So I really like to do my best to cultivate a situation where a client can tell me I'm wrong. So I'll say something like, please correct me if I'm not on track with what I'm saying, or if it doesn't resonate with you, or if you don't agree, or if you see it differently. So I think it's establishing a space where there can be open dialogue, especially right at first with this client, where you get to check in with, how is this going for you, so that they can see that this is a collaborative process and not I'm the expert and the authority and I have all the answers. Because the truth is, which I'm glad you asked this question because I think it's important to bring this out, is that I may have expertise in knowledge, but I'm not an expert on you. I don't have the answers to your life as much as coming alongside and working together to gain more awareness, to find answers, to provide you with professional guidance. But at the end of the day, a person gets to, really feel grounded and situated within themselves as to what is best for them. So I think to gain their buy-in is to, open a space where there is a feedback loop, where we're checking in and they get to really have a voice in what is happening. I tell clients all the time that I am not here to run an agenda or to drive how this goes, that actually this is your time, this is about you, and I'm showing up to support. And so I don't know if you, so sounds like that, that's helpful. That is a really good question. And let me just say, since you asked it, I just want to come in really close and say, if you are listening to this and you have had a bad experience or a negative experience with mental health services, I want to say all mental health providers are not created equal. We are human beings. And if I were to add a part B to how do you find someone, don't be afraid to check into a couple of people. It does take a little bit sometimes to really connect with somebody that you feel like is going to be a good fit. So similarly to, going to a store to, buy an outfit, typically you got to try on a couple before you find what you really like or want and what really works for you. So I definitely would say, don't give up. And, if you're a praying kind of person, pray about it, pray for direction, and all of that. And then sometimes I know my clients, they go and they testify. So I get clients because other clients go, ooh, you need to work with her. And so sometimes it's not telling people all your business, but maybe exploring in your community if someone is working with someone that seems to be a good fit for them. That might be a way to start finding some resources to tap into. Well, I am going to, on that note, end with that into alternate nostril breathing. In the simplest way, One side helps us to relax and relieve our mind, and one side helps us to relieve our body. So we're going to just do one side and then switch to the other. And so we're going to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth 4 times, holding down one side and then switching. All right, so if you would, let's do that together. And I'm going to hold up my fingers to help, okay? So I'm going to start here. And then we'll switch. Well, I'm going to say go in peace. And thank you so much for tuning into this time. I think it's important during this time, and really any time, for us to have these conversations. And so I look forward to doing more in the group in the days to come. You all have an amazing rest of your Saturday, and we will talk soon. All right. Mwah.